there, brilliant, dedicated, woke citizens of America. Thanks for tuning in today. My name is Jay.
My name's Aleyna.
And I'm Sawyer, and we're MLC, Morons Who Love and Care.
Today we will be talking about gun laws.
Buckle in, kids. We're going on an adventure to the past. In this segment, we will dive into the history and background of gun laws. Here is Aleyna.
According to Time magazine, the last time a gun law was disputed in the Supreme Court was in 2008 with the case of the District of Columbia versus Heller. But before I get too ahead of myself, let's look at the past and the background of gun laws. There are three main points that I'll be discussing today. 1, the types of guns and how many there are in the USA. 2, gun-related violences. And 3, the ideological differences throughout America. First, let's review the different types of guns and how many there are. A study from Washington Post says that there are 1.25 guns per every 100 residents in America, and that there are 393 million guns to our 326 million people. The most common gun owned, according to the Sourcebook of Criminal Justice Statistics, are shotguns, with an ownership of 63%, and close behind that, with a 58% ownership rate, are pistols. Now that we have an established percentage of the number of guns, let's look at the different types of guns. Popular Mechanics provides a list of gun types, which I will be referencing. This does not cover all of the guns in America, but it covers some of the most common, which includes the bolt-action rifle, which is the Remington 70, semi-automatic rifles, the AR-15, revolvers, the Ruger GP100, and pistols, the Glock 17. Now, with our basic understanding of guns and the types there are, let's go on to gun violences. Gun violence is something very prevalent in America, and it's something that has a huge impact on the viewpoints of gun laws. According to the Gun Violence Archives, there were a total of 57,119 gun-related incidents. This includes, but is not limited to, accidental shootings and mass shootings. This is a stark comparison from 5 years ago in 2014, where the number of incidents were 44,772. In 4 years, the number of incidences has increased more than 10,000. Another source of gun violence occurs in violent crimes like burglaries and assault. The National Institute of Justice states, quote, "Data collected by the FBI show that firearms were used in 68% of murders, 41% of robberies, and 21% of aggravated assaults nationwide." My brother had a very dear friend to our family. His name was Mark Madden. He went to San Francisco State University and was trying to become a doctor. I remember the last time that I saw him. I of course didn't know it was the last time, but I saw him at church and I gave him a great big hug, and I saw him smile and laughing with his friends. About a week later, in October of 2014, he was shot and killed outside of his grandmother's house in East Palo Alto. His death was not in vain. He received an honorary degree from SF State, and there's a hall named after him. This boy had so much to say and to do, and he left such an impact on everyone's lives. This shows that gun violence is not far away. I never expected it to happen, but now I see how impactful it is. And that leads into our second subject, which is the two different sides that are really the main focus when it comes to gun laws: pro-gun ownership and pro-gun control. There's been an ongoing debate on whether gun laws should or should not change. Their two sides have equally fought for their viewpoints, and we'll look into what their stances are. According to the Washington Post, the Second Amendment, which gives citizens the right to own firearms, was first placed in order to counteract the possibility of the government becoming more like dictatorship and tyrannical. So they wanted citizens to have the right to stand up and fight against it. And today, it's less about fighting against the government and more about keeping the constitutional right. In fact, President Trump said that he would keep the Second Amendment in the forefront of his campaign and his presidency. From this information, we can see that pro-gun owners just want to keep their constitutional rights to own firearms. With pro-gun control supporters, the main want is stricter background checks before purchasing guns. Open Secret states that in 2016, the Democratic Party in the Senate were able to get 4 gun control laws to be voted on. However, none of them passed. In another event, 4 out of 54 Republicans voted for gun control laws that came up in 2015. So that shows how the opposing sides are not able to find a center point to agree, thus explaining how gun laws have not changed in a decent amount of time. It can be seen that pro-gun control owners just want regulation about purchasing guns, and they want to prevent things like violent crimes that I had mentioned before from occurring.
That's a wrap on the history of gun laws. Now let's review what we discussed. First, we talked about the types and number of gun laws that are in America. Then we talked about different instances of gun violence. And finally, we talked about the different ideological differences that are current in America, which includes pro-gun ownership and pro-gun control. In 2008, a man stood and fought for his right to own a handgun in the state. Now, in 2019, we are still fighting for a way to make our country safe, yet fair for all its citizens. Now on to Sawyer for his segment about people.
So all in all, gun laws have been here since the beginning and have in some ways grown with society. But in other ways, they're having a hard time moving forward. Well, we won't stay stuck. Let's move on. Thank you, Aleyna, for all of this information. And now that we have the background surrounding gun laws, let us continue the journey into understanding them. Let's take a look at all the people who have played a pivotal role in the conversation about gun laws throughout the years.
So today there are approximately 270 million guns in America. So who is influencing the public opinion on this issue on both sides? So I want to take a look at 3 main things, which is the individuals who are for gun laws, 2, the individuals that are against gun laws, and 3, the politicians that are driving change on both sides of the issue. So let's get into it. So in the wake of recent mass shootings, many groups have spoken out for more gun control laws. And one of these groups that have moved to the center stage is the Parkland Teens. And this group came out of the Parkland shooting, which occurred about last year, where 17 people were killed. And they have quickly rushed to the center stage as some of the youngest people fighting for gun control, and also some of the most vocal. Another group is the Peace March, which is based out of Chicago, and they've worked with other movements across the country to help stop violence in Chicago and across cities and other cities in America. And 2 other established groups, the Brady Campaign and Moms Demand Action, which are more established, have also been working with these grassroots movements to push for more gun control legislation as well. So one of the teens that has come out of the Parkland shooting and become one of the most active gun control advocates is Emma Gonzalez. And she famously held 6 minutes of silence at a rally to commemorate for the victims of the shooting. And she is become one of the youngest and most vocal advocates of gun control in this country. So on the other side of the issue, many oppose new gun control regulation and support the rights of gun owners. And the most famous of these groups is the NRA, the National Rifle Association, which is headed up by Wayne LaPierre, a longtime gun rights activist. And he has famously advocated for armed guards in schools as a response to many of the shootings in recent years. Another person who is quite vocal in their support for gun rights is President Donald Trump, who was endorsed by the NRA during his 2016 campaign. And conservative radio host Glenn Beck has also come to the spotlight in recent years to advocate against new gun control legislation and support the rights of gun owners. All right, so now let's take a look at some of the political figures who are leading the debate on both sides of the issue. So on the Democratic side, we have Senators Chuck Schumer, Barbara Boxer, and Frank Lunenburg, who have all famously advocated for increased background checks and increased scrutiny on gun purchases. On the other side, we have politicians like Ted Cruz, as well as Rand Paul, who have famously said that gun control doesn't work and they are against any new gun control regulation. So those are the 3 main points that we've seen, and those are who is leading the thought behind gun control on both sides of the issue. And as we can see, gun laws are a big topic and there's a lot of debate over the issue.
Thanks for that quick summary of some important figures in the gun laws movement. Let's continue our exploration into another area, art.
In a madman's world, happens every day. I don't understand why the rules can't change.
Let's be honest, gun laws can be a difficult topic. People don't always want to talk about it, but that doesn't mean it shouldn't be on our minds. There are multiple ways to create awareness and make the issue easier to approach and process, and one of the biggest and most influential ways has been through art. Anything from murals to ads to music videos can make a really big impact. Physical art can manifest in plenty of different ways, from sculptures to murals to interactive art exhibits. Having something physical to represent gun laws makes it seem less distant an issue. It provides a whole new way to experience and process the ideas and opinions people can have. Some artists have taken it upon themselves to create things that express their thoughts and ideas about the issue. From Cornelia Parker's Embryo Firearms, made in 1995, which depicts two Colt 45s to hint at violence while still remaining, beautiful, harmless objects. Over in New Orleans, the Jonathan Ferreira Gallery had an entire exhibit about guns called Guns in the Hands of Artists. And it featured pieces from multiple artists from all over the country. And it was opened in collaboration with the New Orleans Police Department, the City of New Orleans, the New Orleans City Council and Youth Empowerment Project, and others. There have also been ad campaigns that broach the subject of gun laws. Physical art isn't the only art, though. Some musicians have also expressed opinions on guns, including it in their songs. And there are a lot of them that talk about or reference firearms. Some examples are Happiness is a Warm Gun by the Beatles, Pumped Up Kicks by Foster the People, Zombie by the Cranberries, and Blood by Kendrick Lamar. Every song references it in a different way with a wide range of attitudes on the issue, but it's being talked about. And these are just a few of the many, many songs that are out there. And songs are a great way to get people talking about it because they tend to stick with people more than any talking head or televised debate could. Critically assessing the background and meaning of such lyrics could be a way for people to connect on a more personal level, and the more personal, the more it'll make an impact. Another impactful way to talk about guns? Videos. Adding that visual makes it that much more real. Earlier you saw a clip of the music video for Safe by Sage featuring Kesha and Chica, and it addressed guns. And it probably left more of an impression than any song alone could. For that reason, multiple organizations and causes have made their own videos to address the issue. From the NRA to March for Our Lives, there are many videos out there that take a stand on the issue. After the Sandy Hook shooting, a video called Evan was released. It is a narrative video that shows the traumatizing effects of school shootings and really making the issue feel like a reality. That video now has over 11 million views on YouTube and counting. Why? Because it made this distant issue a reality for so many people who weren't connecting with it. Some musical artists have also decided to close that distance. Sia, Kesha, Tyler the Creator, those are just a few. Sia, along with Every Town for Gun Safety, created a music video with children from the National Dance Institute to depict a life in schools influenced by the fear of guns. Childish Gambino's This Is America is an especially notable example of addressing gun violence. It was daring and provocative and garnered a lot of attention and debate. Turns out a lot of people had opinions about the issue, and a music video like that is all it took to get the dialogue going, and that is what art can do. Regardless of which side of the issue you stand on, it's important to note that artists have had such a huge impact of bringing it to the forefront of discussions. If no one talks about it, how will we ever change things? With all these different mediums available to us, it's easier than ever to find a way to plug into the discussion. We can easily explore the different ideas and opinions expressed, helping us think about it critically. You can do more than just think about it, though. If you're inspired, you can get involved.
We'll be focusing on some groups across the United States who are dedicated to the discussion of gun laws. I'll pass the mic on to Aleyna to begin that discussion. One such group is the March for Our Lives Coalition, which was the catalyst for over 800 marches across the country to start a discussion on gun laws. Many local and national groups exist that are fighting for increased gun legislation. Let's take a look at some advocacy groups, nationally, from San Francisco, and on the USF campus.
All right, so nationally, there is Every Town for Gun Safety, which focuses on gun law reform. Every Town for Gun Safety is a group that was founded in 2014 that focuses on requiring universal background checks for firearm purchases. The group has financial backing from Michael Bloomberg, the previous mayor of New York City, as well as an author, philanthropist, and businessman. The group also publishes research on gun violence and prevention. Some of these study topics include suicide, background checks, and the gun lobby. Now let's move away from national groups to one right at home.
So one of these groups is the Robbie Pullout Foundation, which has helped remove over 600 guns off the streets and keep communities in San Francisco, Richmond, and the East Bay much safer. So what can you do to get involved right here on the USF campus?
Here at USF, we have a current events discussion club. This group meets to discuss current events on campus, in the city, and across the nation. Gun laws are a relevant issue that can be discussed here. The group can be used to organize further advocacy with the minded peers for or against gun laws. Now you have seen the different groups that are advocating for the issue nationally, locally, and on campus. There are plenty more out there. It's just a matter of taking action and reading up on them to see which ones you stand for and which one you might want to get involved with.
And gun laws are important in the grassroots movement, as seen by the March for Our Lives movements. Anybody can incite change.